Its madness commander Vesh Tar muttered, his tendrils quivering in disbelief. How can any species craft such weapons on the barren planet of Crux 4, under the dim light of 3 distant stars, the coalition of free species huddled together in a war council? The war had been balanced until the humans entered the fray, not with armies, but with weapons unlike any the galaxy had seen. Now, a new horror plagued the minds of the coalition's soldiers, the weapon masters of Earth. Perhaps we underestimated them, General Korvac, the towering mass of hardened scales, grumbled. His voice rumbled like distant thunder, burdened by every defeat his forces had suffered at the hands of human technology. Their creations have decimated our ranks. There is no defense against them. Underestimated Vesh Tar's voice was almost a hiss, his slit-pupiled eyes narrowing in fury. We didn't understand them at all. What kind of species would create such efficient death machines? It's dishonorable. Another alien, smaller in stature, but with eyes that flickered like a dying star, interjected. It's not just the power of their weapons. They strike without warning, without giving us a chance to fight back. By the time we know where they are, it's too late. There was a murmur of agreement among the council. The room, filled with beings of various shapes and sizes, bore the scars of recent battles. None of them could claim to have seen a human engineer in action and survived. Their only knowledge came from the aftermath, ranks obliterated, equipment destroyed, and soldiers dropped in seconds. We must do something, General Karrath insisted, slamming a fist down onto the metal table. The force of the impact made the holographic map of the battlefield flicker. We can't continue to fight against weapons we don't understand. We need a way to counter them. Perhaps a cold, mechanical voice cut through the murmurs. It belonged to Strago 7, an artificial intelligence unit, sleek and angular, hovering above the group. It is not the humans we should fear, but their engineers. The room fell silent. All eyes and sensory organs turned toward the AI. It had been a silent observer until now, its input often viewed as too clinical, too detached from the organic realities of war. But in the face of these new, devastating human weapons, its insight was needed more than ever. Explain, General Korvac rumbled, his massive arms crossed over his broad chest. Human engineers have perfected a form of warfare that prioritizes precision and lethality over engagement. Strago 7 continued. For them, the goal is not a battle, it is the annihilation of their target. Their weapons are designed to be flawless, efficient, and terrifying. The word terrifying hung in the air, and its weight was felt by all. In the wilds of many worlds, the most feared creatures are those that can kill without hesitation, without being seen. Now, for the first time, the coalition realized they weren't just fighting an army, they were facing the minds of engineers who had crafted weapons with the sole purpose of instilling fear. Then how do we fight back? Vesh Tar's voice was almost desperate, his usual confidence shaken. How do we stop them? We can't outmatch them on the battlefield, we cannot defeat them the way we've fought others, Strago 7 responded. We must find a way to neutralize their weapons. We must become unpredictable, force them into situations where their technology is meaningless, or we could target their engineers, a voice from the back of the room suggested. Cut them off at the source. Without their creators, their weapons are just metal and circuitry. The idea sparked a discussion, strategies and counter-strategies flying back and forth. But the truth became increasingly clear: the humans had already won. In one respect, they had created weapons so feared, so hated, that the very thought of them was enough to disrupt the coalition's efforts. Meanwhile, far from the War Council, deep within a hidden human facility on an asteroid orbiting a dying star, Weapon Master Kale Varian stood over his latest creation. The workshop around him buzzed with activity, filled with the hum of machinery and the glow of plasma reactors. Human engineers moved with purpose, constructing new weapons that would soon be unleashed upon yet another battlefield. Cal wiped the sweat from his brow as he examined the plasma lance he'd been perfecting. This will do, he muttered to himself, adjusting the weapon's calibration. Its power was immense, capable of slicing through the thickest alien armor with ease. His hands moved quickly, ensuring that each component was perfectly aligned. This was no mere tool of war, this was a message to the galaxy. Beside him, other engineers worked tirelessly on their own projects. kinetic rifles that fired projectiles at impossible speeds, pulse cannons designed to destroy entire fortifications in a single blast, and drones that moved like ghosts through enemy lines. Every weapon was crafted with the same goal: absolute superiority on the battlefield. Cale glanced at a nearby screen showing live footage from Crux 4. Coalition soldiers scrambled in disarray as human-deployed automated defenses tore through their ranks. They knew they were being targeted, but they had no idea where the attacks were coming from. They never stood a chance, Cale thought, his lips curling into a grim smile. Back at the War Council, the discussions grew more frantic. The coalition leaders grasped at any strategy that might give them an edge, but deep down, they all knew the truth: they were facing an enemy they didn't understand, one that didn't fight by their rules. On the asteroid, Cale set the plasma lance aside and turned to his next project, a sleek, deadly railgun prototype. He knew the galaxy despised him and his kind human engineers, the minds behind the weapons that brought entire species to their knees. But he didn't care. They feared him because they couldn't stop him. Every new creation was a testament to human ingenuity, a reminder that in this galaxy, it wasn't about strength or honor, it was about survival, and humanity was determined to survive at any cost. "Prepare the next shipment," Cale said into his comms, his voice steady. "Let's show them what we're truly capable of." Back at the council, Vesh-Tar and Korvac argued over tactics, while Stratos 7 watched in silence. They could debate for hours, but the result would be the same. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, not for its soldiers or its armies, but for the minds of its engineers. Far from the battlefield, Cale Varian and his team continued their work, their creations already shifting the course of the war. They were the unseen force behind every human victory, the ghosts in the machine, crafting the weapons that no species could counter. And as long as Cale and the other weapon masters remained, the galaxy would continue to hate and fear what humanity could build. Back at the council, the tension had thickened to a suffocating degree. The coalition's leaders, from the smallest of insectoid representatives to the towering General Korvac, stood silent for the first time in the meeting. Even Vesh-Tar, whose tendrils usually trembled with rage, seemed lost in thought, staring at the flickering hologram of the battlefield that had turned into a slaughterhouse. "They've always been one step ahead," Karrath finally admitted, his voice low, almost as if the acknowledgement pained him. "We can't win unless we can neutralize their engineers. Their weapons aren't just tools, they're extensions of their battle strategy. Human engineers. They've redefined the rules of war," agreed. Korvac rumbled. "We can no longer engage them on their terms." His heavy frame shifted uncomfortably, every movement betraying a frustration that simmered beneath his battle-hardened exterior. "They don't just fight, they create." Stratos 7 chimed in, its voice calm, analytical as ever. "Their engineers design systems that exploit every possible advantage, whether it's terrain, timing, or even psychological warfare. The mere presence of their weapons changes how we move, how we act. It instills fear." Fear, Vesh-Tar spat, his pupils narrowing into sharp slits. It always comes back to that. He balled his fists, his tendrils trembling violently. "They're cowards, hiding behind machines. But we can't outgun them. We must outthink them. We need to find their production facilities, their engineers. If we can sever the head." The thought hung in the air as uneasy silence settled over the council once again. They all understood the task ahead: eliminate the engineers, and perhaps the weapons would die with them. Far away from this conversation, in a distant and dark corner of the galaxy, Cale Varian stood over a new schematic. It was complex, so advanced that even some of his fellow engineers struggled to comprehend it. His hands moved fluidly across the holographic interface, making subtle adjustments, fine-tuning what would soon be another game-changing weapon. "They don't realize," Cale murmured, mostly to himself. "It's not the weapons they fear. It's the minds behind them." Around him, the lab buzzed with activity. Human engineers, each one a master in their field, worked tirelessly, their eyes focused, their minds sharp. The lab itself was a fortress of innovation, hidden, protected, and more secure than any battlefield outpost. Here, in the beating heart of human ingenuity, the future of warfare was being shaped. Engineer Urs Locke, Cale's closest colleague, appeared beside him. "The Coalition knows about us, Cale. They're sending strike teams after the engineers now. We're no longer behind the scenes. Kale didn't flinch. His fingers continued to glide across the controls, adjusting the schematic. Let them come. They won't find us before it's too late. Ares folded his arms, his expression unreadable. They're scared good, Kale replied, finally stopping to glance at Ares. Fear is our greatest ally. We've turned their strength against them. They can't win a war they don't understand. As Ares moved away to check on another project, Kale stared at the newest weapon design in front of him. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a hybrid of human creativity and brutal efficiency. He imagined the coalition forces trembling as they encountered this new weapon on the battlefield, scrambling for solutions they wouldn't find. This wasn't about military might or strategy, it was about survival. And humanity had perfected the art of survival by outthinking their enemies, by creating what others could not even imagine. In the coalition war room, as the council debated how to strike at the human engineers, the holographic display shifted. A new battle had begun on a distant world, and human forces were already deploying their latest weaponry. Plasma projectiles sliced through the coalition ranks before they could react. Soldiers fell without ever seeing their attackers, and automated drones fired with deadly precision from the skies. The battlefield was chaos, but for the humans, it was perfectly controlled. The council watched in silence as their forces were decimated, understanding all too well that this was not the work of a traditional army, but the product of a mind far removed from the battlefield, a mind like Kale Varian's, sitting somewhere in the dark, guiding the war from behind the scenes. They've already begun deploying new weapon systems, Korvac growled, eyes narrowing at the footage. We're running out of time. We have no choice but to strike at their engineers directly, Kar Wrath added, his voice desperate now. We must dismantle their operation before they dismantle us. Do you even understand how they work? Stragos 7 asked coldly. Every weapon, every machine they build is perfectly suited to the battlefield. Their engineers are not merely creators, they are battlefield tacticians. Attacking them will be harder than you think. They are always one step ahead. Back in the human lab, Kale stood in front of his latest creation, an adaptive energy rifle, its sleek form humming with barely contained power. It was a masterpiece of human ingenuity capable of changing its output based on the environment, a weapon that could outthink the soldier holding it. He knew the coalition hated him. He knew that to them he was not a soldier but a monster, a creator of nightmares. They despised him because his work had taken the rules of war and shattered them. But it didn't matter. The galaxy would hate humanity's engineers, but it would fear them more. Kale smiled grimly as he picked up the rifle. Let them come. We'll show them what real creation looks like. As he activated the rifle, a low hum filled the air, and Kale Varian became one with his creation, another weapon master ready to remind the galaxy why humanity's greatest strength lay not in its armies, but in the minds that forged the tools of war. Back at the council, the decision was made. Strike teams would be sent to hunt down the engineers. It was a desperate move, but the only one left. Yet deep down, every member of the coalition knew one terrifying truth: they were already too late, far above Crux 4. The coalition strike teams were already en route. 6 ships, sleek and armed to the teeth, slipped through the void, moving with the precision and purpose only the coalition's best could manage. Their mission was clear: locate the human engineers, eliminate them, and cripple their ability to wage war. Commander Vesh-Tar sat at the helm of the lead vessel, his tendrils quivering not with fear, but with the anticipation of battle. His slit-pupilled eyes fixed on the readouts before him. This time he muttered under his breath, "We will hit them where it hurts." Behind him, elite soldiers, the best of their species, prepared for what would likely be the deadliest mission they had ever faced. They had trained for this moment, honed their skills, and studied every scrap of intelligence the coalition had on human weaponry. And yet, as the planet loomed closer, doubt crept into the minds of even the bravest among them. "We can't underestimate them again," Vesh-Tar reminded his crew, his voice sharp. "These engineers may be hiding behind layers of metal and machines, but we are the hunters. They are nothing without their toys." But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the memory of the last battle. Coalition forces scattered across the battlefield like broken toys, filled by weapons they didn't even see. The fear, he thought, it's all they've ever given us. Meanwhile, deep within their hidden facility, Weapon Master Calvarian was already aware of the approaching threat. He watched the incoming Coalition ships on his holo display, the data flowing seamlessly across the screen. A cold smile touched his lips. So they finally come for us. Beside him, Ares Locke was already at work. They think they can stop us by eliminating the creators, Ars mused, his fingers flying over the console. It's almost flattering. Don't you think? Kale nodded, his eyes never leaving the display. They don't understand that we've been ready for this from the beginning. Let them come. He moved across the room with purpose, activating the defenses they had meticulously crafted for just such an occasion. The laboratory, once a hub of quiet, brilliant creativity, now hummed with the power of deadly precision. Walls shifted, floors revealed hidden compartments, and automated turrets came to life, each one designed with a single goal: survival. Activate the drone perimeter, Kale commanded. We'll make sure they never even see the inside of this facility outside the base. A swarm of attack drones took to the skies, their sleek forms blending into the surrounding terrain. These weren't ordinary machines, they were the culmination of humanity's obsession with efficiency and lethality. The drones patrolled in perfect silence, armed with weapons designed to shred anything that came too close. Back on the Coalition ships, Vesh-Tar and his team descended into the atmosphere, the shimmering surface of the asteroid growing larger as they approached. Prepare for landing, he ordered, his voice laced with determination. Stay sharp. We strike fast, take out the engineers, and leave before they can retaliate. As they neared the surface, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ships. Drones incoming, shouted one of the pilots, panic rising in his voice. The Coalition forces barely had time to react before the first wave of human drones descended upon them. Plasma blasts and kinetic rounds tore through the air, ripping into the Coalition ships. Soldiers scrambled to activate defensive systems, but the human drones were relentless, their attacks precise and devastating. Evade. Now Vesh-Tar barked, his tendrils lashing out in frustration. The ships swerved, dodging as many incoming attacks as they could, but the damage had already been done. Two ships were forced to make emergency landings, smoke trailing behind them as they careened toward the rocky surface. They were waiting for us, General Korvac growled over the comms. Damn their engineers. They've planned for this. We push forward, Vesh-Tar replied, his eyes narrowing. We have no choice now. His ship dodged the final barrage of drone fire and descended toward the hidden human facility. As they touched down, the Coalition strike teams poured out, weapons drawn and eyes scanning the horizon for more incoming threats. Inside the facility, Kale watched their every move. They've made it through the first layer, Ares commented, barely glancing up from his work. But it won't matter. The real fight hasn't even begun. Kale moved toward the weapon racks lining the wall. Time to show them what human engineers are truly capable of, he said, picking up a prototype kinetic disruptor. A weapon that could disable enemy shields and armor with a single pulse. Deploy the sentries, Kale ordered. Let's make this interesting. Outside, the Coalition soldiers pressed forward, their boots crunching against the jagged ground. They could see the human facility now. Its imposing structure a testament to the humans' mastery of technological design. It was as if the facility itself dared them to try to breach its defenses. Move, and Vesh-Tar commanded. Take them before they can react. But as the Coalition forces advanced, the ground beneath their feet began to shift. Hidden energy turrets sprang from the earth, their weapons locked onto the invaders. The first volley of plasma fire struck the front line, dropping soldiers in an instant. Shouts of panic filled the air as the Coalition scrambled for cover. Fall back. Fall back. Korvac bellowed, his massive frame taking the brunt of an energy blast that left a smoldering wound across his armored chest. We're being slaughtered out here, Vesh-Tar gritted his teeth, fury boiling in his chest. We need to reach the facility. We can't fail now, but the humans had anticipated every move. As the Coalition forces regrouped, more defenses activated drones, sentry turrets, and tactical mines designed to detonate at the slightest disturbance. Every step the Coalition took forward was met with ruthless, calculated resistance. Kale watched from the safety of his command center, his expression cold and focused. They're learning, he muttered, watching as the Coalition forces attempted to adapt, changing tactics on the fly. but they're not learning fast enough. Ares glanced at him. Should we engage directly? Kale considered the question, his fingers tapping lightly on the control panel. Not yet. Let them struggle a little longer. Let them see the full extent of what we've built. Only then will they understand just how far behind they truly are. On the battlefield, Veshtar's forces were in disarray. The strike that was meant to be swift and decisive had turned into a desperate fight for survival. Every attempt to advance was met with precision-engineered death. Their most elite soldiers were falling like the rest, overwhelmed by the relentless onslaught of human technology. This can't be happening, Veshtar hissed through clenched teeth as he ducked behind a rocky outcrop, plasma fire scorching the ground around him. We're the hunters, but deep down, even Veshtar knew the truth. They had never been the hunters. Not in this fight. They had been the prey all along, and the humans, their engineers, had designed the perfect trap. Back in the facility, Kale turned to Ares, a faint smile playing at the edges of his lips. Send the final wave. Let's end this with the press of a button. The ground shook, and the true power of humanity's engineers was unleashed. Mechs, towering constructs of metal and fire, emerged from hidden bays beneath the surface. They were the ultimate expression of human ingenuity, unstoppable machines of war, each one armed with the most advanced weaponry the galaxy had ever seen. The Coalition forces looked up in horror as the mechs descended upon them, their weapons charging, their eyes glowing with the light of death. And as the first volley of plasma fire erupted from the mechs' cannons, Veshtar understood too late that they had never stood a chance. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says, we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.